04 at Town Hall, 500 Glenwood Way. I'm going to start off with old and new business. Reorganization of the board. Tonight, we don't have everyone, so I think that we should just table this for now. We'll table it, is that correct? Should we table it?
Excellent idea.
And then we'll wait till everyone comes so we can all do it together.
Do you want a formal motion to reorganize?
Sure.
Motion to continue the reorganization of the board until next meeting?
I second.
All in
Second,
favor?
Yeah, all in favor.
Aye. All right, in the minutes too, everyone, all the members are not here, so I think we should table that too. We get a motion for that?
Sure. Motion to continue the approval of the June 8, 2017 minutes until the next meeting.
I second.
Approved?
Approved, yep.
Aye.
Okay, the vice chairman will read the first petition of the night. 1050 Washington Street.
Oh, we're starting with 1050 Washington.
Oh, sorry, no, wait a minute.
Page one?
Which one are we doing first?
1050
Yeah, 1050 Washington Street.
Second, 15 Vine Street, where did I? Let me just grab yours for a second.
Yeah, that's the right one.
That's the right one?
There you go.
Yeah,
This is the one right here, top one.
yeah.
Where is it?
Oh, sorry, I was looking at
No
the wrong
problem.
address, okay.
Yeah.
The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 13, 2017 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, on the petition of Paul and Mary Brodeur, 15 Vine Avenue, Quincy, for a variance under 175, Section 21A4 for a multi-unit dwelling, a variance under 175-29 for a side setback, and a variance under 175-29 for maximum lot coverage on 1050 Washington Street. The property is located on Assessor's Plan 39, Plot 72 in the R30 zone.
The representatives?
Good evening. My name is John Carter. I'm with the Russell Wheatley Company. We're here representing Mr. Brodeur, and at this time, I'm requesting to withdraw his petition. He is, in speaking with Mr. Brodeur, has decided that he wants to reassess the property, and so rather than go through the process, he decided that he would instead just withdraw the petition without prejudice.
All right. Do we make a motion to accept that?
Sure. Motion to allow the petitioner's application withdraw the petition without prejudice?
Second the motion.
All?
Aye.
Aye.
It passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to the second on the agenda.
That was at Woodland Drive?
Woodland Drive.
Okay. The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 13, 2017 at 7:05 p.m. at Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, on the petition of Paul Dabine, 67 Woodland Drive, Weymouth, Mass., for a variance for a two-family dwelling under 175, Section 21(1)A, and a variance for two principal buildings on one lot on 729 Randolph Street. The property is located on Assessor's Plan 57, Plot 107, R30 zone.
Crossed me up there when you said Woodland Street. Thought I was in the wrong place. Again, good evening. My name is John Carter. I work for the Russell Wheatley Company, and I'm here representing, helping Mr. Dabine with his petition to obtain variances on the property at number 729 Randolph Street in Abington. It's located on the west side of Randolph Street in an area on the western part of this town that, in that area, Randolph Street's a one-way street, I believe. Mr. Dabine has recently purchased this property, and on this property, there had been last year, this time last year, 2016, this property had been in front of the board for a a special permit slash variance to put in a apartment in a building that previously had been used as a ceramic shop. It went through the board, it was approved under a special permit to put in a 1-2-bedroom apartment in the existing building. Currently, there is a single-family home on the property, as well as the building that was used at that time as a ceramic shop. And Mrs. Regan at the time was the owner, and she was the one that had petitioned the board to see if she could put in an apartment, because I guess what had happened was her husband had recently passed away. She had decided to move on. The business was not working, and I guess, as from what I understood, from what I read, that the business wasn't really attractive, or it was not very well liked, and not well liked, but it was tough to sell with a commercial business on the property. So she decided that she would try and come to you and get a special permit of variance to put an apartment in there, which, as I said, was granted by the board, and Mr. Devine then bought the property, and it was approved for a special permit to put in 1-2-bedroom apartment. What Mr. Devine would like to see if would be allowed is to grant a variance to construct 2 1-bedroom apartments. And to do that, he would need to, from what I believe, is he would need 2 variances. One would be for a multifamily building in the R30 zone, and the second would be two principal buildings on a lot, because as the building becomes it would be then defined as a 2-family building, or would be a principal building. So he would need a variance to have a second principal building on the lot. One of the criteria for, and I believe this to hold true, is for a variance you need to show some kind of a hardship on the property. My belief is that the building itself is a large building, and it itself creates kind of a hardship, because anything that he would, or anyone who owned the property would want to do with that particular building or property would have to come in front of the board for something, for whatever he wanted to do. If he wanted to try and create a business there, it's in the R30 zone, it would have to come in front of you. Anything that he would want to do with that building, he would have to come in front of the board. I think that makes the criteria for a hardship under the law, under the bylaw. Other than that, I mean, that's our argument. I know that this has been in front of the board, as I had stated last year. There was quite a bit of conversation about it, and if anything else that can be answered, I would be more than happy to entertain any questions or answer any concerns.
So is the building remain the same?
Building's remaining the same.
Okay, so you're coming in for the variance. Do we have frontage on this too?
You have 84 feet of frontage on Randolph Street.
Okay, that was already approved through, I remember this building. I remember us talking about it. So nothing's gonna change with the building right now?
Nothing is changing, nothing is, the only thing that's gonna change is we're adding an area of pavement for an additional parking space. Other than that, the buildings, if you will, and also we're going to relocate the stairs out in front. They're just gonna adjust the stairs out in front, because they jut out into into the parking area, and it creates a little bit of a safety concern, so we were gonna have him relocate the stairs.
Okay.
Oh, I had a question on the actual application itself. So you're seeking a variance under 175-21-1A.
Yes.
But if this is the R30 zone, that would only require a special permit. So I guess, is it you citing the correct site, or, but that, the 1A is for
It's-
accessory apartments, not multi-unit. So, Marshall,
I
you,
believe accessory apartments relates to accessory apartments in single-family dwellings, which brings us back to 175-32 I think it is, which is in-law apartments. And there's one allowed in a single-family dwelling. And that's what I believe that relates to. I think it is confusing where it has an S on the end and it's plural. And it does also in 175-32I. I don't know if you want me to turn to that, and that would,
32. So is this a special permit under that for a multi-unit dwelling?
that 175-32I accessory apartments
Oh, I'm sorry,
deals
accessory
with
apartments.
single-family properties and special housing needs, and one accessory apartment for a single-family residence, and I believe that's what that's relating to, I don't think. And it says you can have one, and I believe what should be asked for is,
Special permit.
no.
A variance under that
No, a
section?
variance for two families, in this case, on a separate lot, which is 21A2, which was not what was asked for. If you were entertaining approving this, I would suggest that we touch base with council before we move forward.
Yeah, because-
For clarification on that. Because I don't think that what was intended here was accessory apartments for an unlimited amount of accessory apartments on, I don't think that's what this relates to.
Well, the wording is actually the two-family dwelling, which would look be A2, right?
Correct.
One, so except for the word numbers, the wording seems to be what you intended, because you intend just to have two.
That's correct. They intended to have a
Apartment.
two-family dwelling.
Two.
That's just as it says, a variance for
Right,
a two-family or two apartments.
two apartments.
Two apartments in that one building here.
Yes.
Right, this is not a two-family here.
No, that's a single family, that's a
Alright.
single-family house.
See what you're saying, how it's written out is a little different than you see it, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe we should revisit
If you intend to,
a vote on it, I mean,
approve it, then I would suggest that we get clarification on that. Make sure that whatever action you take is appropriate.
all right, so before we go on, I mean, should we, maybe,
I don't know, you can, get your feelings with regards to the whole thing.
it's just that the wording's not correct.
I understand.
We don't wanna vote
I
on-
understand.
I'm voting.
I understand.
Would it be costly to withdraw it and come back with what we think is the proper?
Do we have time for that?
No, not tonight, but to
And then, no,
withdraw.
I mean the days,
Well, yeah, I mean, why don't we just, if you guys don't mind, I mean, everybody,
You wanna-
everybody say,
oh,
here,
yeah.
I just assume, and if we have to, if you feel uncomfortable, if you decide one way or another, we can,
well, I don't think,
Continue it.
I don't think we're gonna vote on it tonight if the wording's not correct.
well, then, if you, I mean, everybody's here, why don't we let everybody voice their opinion, and
Yeah,
then we
just
can
sure.
Does the
continue it.
board agree? I mean,
If that's all right.
does the board agree?
I just heard that it may be, the wording may be appropriate, so, yeah, I would continue.
Everybody okay with that?
I'm fine with continuing.
Any other questions?
It did indicate on your application that there would be construction or site alterations within an existing wetland. So would there be any special or any additional variances or special permits you'd be seeking as a result of that?
Where do I say that? There isn't any
On the
wetlands on the
first
property.
On the first page.
You have yes checked off for question 1.
There be any site alterations on 100 feet of the wetlands? Oh,
And there do appear to be.
there's a
floodplains and
ditch, yeah, there's a
wetlands.
ditch, so, yeah, because, well, that parking space that we show is there would be within the,
So would that require an additional special permit?
no, that would require us to go to conservation.
Okay. Marshall, is that your understanding as well?
It's not within a floodplain.
No, the
Okay.
floodplain,
It's
the
not
floodplain is
it's
shown
not
on the
within
plan.
floodplain, the wetlands protection overlay district, so.
Okay, okay. Just double checking.
In fact, he has it there on his.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I guess the only situation is he may have asked for the correct 175-21A, A1A. He's asked for a variance where in the R30 district, it's actually only a special permit.
However, that might not be the correct citation.
It's not the right, correct wording.
It may or may not. I may be incorrect. I don't want to ruin it for somebody if I am incorrect. I just looked at it yesterday and said, oh boy, and I couldn't get an answer.
Any questions?
I remember you coming for the board. I think you did think it was a hardship the size of the building that you had, and so that's why we did 2 apartments rather than 1. I think, spent agonized over it, right? But it was, I beg your pardon, it wasn't 2 apartments, it
No.
was a 2-room apartment, just because of the size of the building, which actually I think is bigger than the house beside it.
it's very close to the same size as the house.
So we understood that.
Yeah, because, and because I wasn't presenting this last year, I wasn't
Right, someone else owned the
involved with this.
property.
Yeah, Mrs. Regan owned the property, and it was decided that, from what I read, it was decided that she would be under a special permit, be granted a 1-2-bedroom apartment. So that's why, in coming here, Mr. Dabini and I, we talked about it, and he doesn't want to build a 2-bedroom apartment. He more likes to build 1-bedroom apartments just because it's a lot easier for him to rent them, and it's a lot easier to maintain them. So that's his thought, and I said, well, we're not really, in doing that, we're not really increasing a density, because parking for a 1-bedroom apartment is 1.3 spaces. For a 2-bedroom apartment is 2 spaces. So we're and then you have to add for a guest. So the parking density would be the same and would conform to the bylaws. And as far as additional, that's I've been up and down the street and looked at it. It's a fairly narrow street, but we're really talking what's coming in and out of what would be coming in and out of that property if he were to just put the 2-bedroom apartment in, and would be the same. So I don't think there's really a question as far as is it going to be a traffic situation. We'd be talking about at most 1 additional car. It is a busy street, it's one way, but it is a fairly busy street, and it's narrow. But I think that it would be, in my opinion, it would be okay.
Today was an unfortunate day to come, because actually it was a 2-way road today. It was very congested, right? Because-
Oh, really?
Construction. The construction.
That's right,
Oh.
so there was lots of construction.
Yeah, there you go on my face. Huh?
Well, no. But what would you say, the fact that it's an R30 district, and that, or they're all, you know, one-family houses all around it?
Well, the majority of the houses are, but there are in that general area, there are multifamilies in that general area. There's 2 or 3, I think, that I noticed, that, you know, have probably been there for a long time. So that was another reason why we thought that, this would be something that could be entertained by the board.
I have no questions.
Okay, do you want to open up to the floor? If you have something to say, please name and address.
Bill DeRusha, 723 Randolph Street. I live right next door. Stand here, okay?
You can come up if you want and speak, or whatever.
As for the hardship, I believe the gentleman knew what he was getting into. I don't know if I'm out of line, he's a house flipper, well known. It's not good for the neighborhood. I've lived there for 20 years, traffic is a problem. When the studio was in operation, emergency vehicles couldn't even get down the street. She's supposed to have off-street parking, she never did. 30, the 1-2 family or 1 duplex dwelling on a separate lot, it's a postage stamp, it's a very small lot. The extra parking he's talking about borders my driveway, which is very, very narrow, and I don't even know if we'd be able to get a car down. There is wetland there. But 3 dwellings on 1 lot, a small lot, it will cause a traffic problem, and there's 2 other buildings in the neighborhood that are rental properties, there's only 2. Traffic's a problem, like I said, he knew what he was getting into, it is not a hardship. It's all about making the studio into 2 one-bedroom apartments. It will cause a problem with traffic, and I don't know where he's gonna park. There is in question, when the house was sold, the question on that house, when it was brand new, it was moved over 2 feet. There was never a permit pulled on that house. When it burned down, it was rebuilt.
Oh,
There was
the
never a
back
survey-
section.
There was never a survey done on that property. So right off the bat, we're messing with fire. A brand new house was built on a brand new foundation with no lot survey. Okay, that goes back to when, I don't know how they got away with it, but they did it. Mary Lou was the building inspector at that time. And like I said, it's not good for the neighborhood, too much congestion, there's a lot of small kids, and I know from living there for 20 years, traffic is a problem on that street. There's always cars flying down the wrong way to get to the end before somebody else comes up. I'm surprised it hasn't been a fatality, and right now, it's the most little kids have been in that neighborhood since I moved in 1993.
Okay.
So, like I said, there is no hardship. The gentleman knew what he's doing, buying investment property, and I just think to come in, I mean, I had to ask the guy 3 times to cut his grass. It was up over my knees.
Okay, thank you.
Finally, the Board of Health came over, he complied.
All right.
And I don't think it's a good idea, and I will fight this the whole way.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Sean Riley, 26 Russell Lane. In full disclosure, I've represented Mr. Devine before on another property. I just wanted to address your notice issue first, to try to offer some help to you. The laws require that the notice that goes out to the neighbors, the butters, and the paper give sufficient information and give someone an idea of what's to be discussed. And I think in Abington, we actually put in a little bit more detail than other towns. Some towns will just say for a proposed 2 one-bedroom units at the following address, period. They don't recite the section, probably because this issue comes up where the wrong subsection is mentioned and everyone's, what should we do?
Right.
So I think, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think your notice actually says for 2 one-bedroom units. I believe it says that, right? So I think that's all correct. It's a variance, that's correct, the address is correct. So, yeah, for a 2-family dwelling. Now, I agree with Marshall, accessory apartments is the wrong classification. It's really the variance under the same section, section 21A. not 21A, 1A, 21A, 2, I would guess probably, or 3, whatever it is. But in any event, obviously, the neighbors know what's being proposed. But if you're concerned about it, perhaps you could either vote, if you were inclined to vote to approve, you could approve it contingent on town council confirming that notice was sufficient. If you vote to deny, it's a non-issue. Or you could continue it completely if you, for whatever reason, want to wait another month. Not to rebut Mr., sorry, I forgot your last name. DeRusha. Thank you, DeRusha. But just to offer, it's always a concern with parking. That's the number one thing about the number of units is the number of parking. In this case, though, you're going from a 1 2-bedroom unit that requires 3 parking to 2 1-bedrooms that requires 3 parking. So there shouldn't be any real increase in traffic because of this change. If anything, making 1-bedroom units, you almost have an inclination that you're gonna have better control and a smaller number of people living in that building. It is a very large building, and this is probably ripe for a variance type of argument, because what else can we want? I don't think anybody wants to put another business in there. It has been a business use for years, and I think Mr. Devaney's trying to get away from that. The 2 1-bedroom apartments are not even gonna fill that building. There's gonna be a big chunk of that's gonna be void and unused, maybe used as garage space, I don't know, whatever. So I don't think we're overloading, or he's overloading the property, and I don't, with all due respect, I don't think you're gonna increase a lot of traffic there. If anything, I get a little bit of control over it. And it's also, as John noted, subject to conservation to approve that there's no issues there when the pavement gets adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
We all know that just because it says 1 bedroom, doesn't necessarily mean only 1 or 2 people are gonna live there. I think we all know that. And the opportunity for this to happen is there. I've lived there for 20 years. Mr. Riley's driven by a few times. I've lived there for 20 years, I know. I know what I had to put up with the parking from that, studio was. And she was warned time and time again, and went in one year and out the other. Like I said, you're gonna have 2 primary residences on 1 lot. The people voted on the zoning change for that purpose. It's gonna be a bad, make a bad problem even worse, overloading that.
Okay. Anybody else? Sir?
Mike McCormick, 28 Pickett Street. Basically, there's 2 buildings there now. Why is there now a request for the variance to put 2 buildings on the lot? Because one isn't a principal building, is that?
Well, he has a special permit right now, correct? And he wants to make it a variance.
Well, he's,
What would stay with the...
That's correct.
was-
It's
we
considered an accessory
Yeah.
apartment that now you'd have 2, and now then it becomes a second principal building.
I'd like to go on record as not being in favor of this myself.
Anyone else? Okay, let's close it to the floor.
Well, I think Andrew has a point that we might have a problem voting for this, although the wording seems to actually reflect and follow A2. But the actual citation in the application is A1A. I thought it was A14 or something. I was flying through it. So I think Mr. Riley's point is really well taken. That it really doesn't, we definitely have a gist, and all the neighbours and the butters are here, so they knew what was going on. But I'm not totally sure that we can actually, vote on this
I agree.
if it's not. And so, is this something, like Marshall said, that we should ask council for?
Definitely, because I don't want to vote on something that's not properly written up.
Right,
And
and that's the problem.
that's the way I feel about it, at least. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he may come back and say, you know what, you can change it.
do we have the time on that, though? I mean, do we have enough?
We can ask for an extension.
When do we have to make our decision within
100 days.
100 days? So 100 days is September 13th,
Oh, yeah.
right? Is that right? 100 days.
100 days is a little over 3 months, so
Yeah.
from the date of filing.
So date of filing was June
Probably-
6th,
You're probably about 30, I'm sorry, what date? You're about
June-
30 days in,
June
30 days in now.
Right.
yeah.
So you have plenty of time to get town council to give you counsel before your next hearing to, what you're saying, is continue it till then.
Until September 13th. No, we're not continuing until September 13th, it's just that we're giving
August 10th is the next meeting.
right, we're given a certain amount of time to actually decide, right? And then if we don't get to it
Understood.
within that time, you're all set, it's
Right.
done, as far as I
Right.
know. So we have plenty of time to continue this to our next hearing. Would that be okay?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Somebody want to make a motion?
Is that agreeable with you?
Can I just
Oh,
say
I'm sorry,
something?
go ahead.
That's all right, that's all right. I just want to be sure I know exactly what has to be done. So, in other words, what has to be done on this application is changed 1A to 2. Is that what we're talking about? Changing the 1A
I would say
to a
yes.
2?
Marshall, would
To
you?
find out whether we have, whether.
Or whether you
Well, we
have to or
change
not?
it
That's
or not.
required,
I mean-
whether it's gonna be a special, whether it would be a special permit, whether it would be a variance.
Right.
And for clarification, what should be asked for to allow what is being proposed? And I would have to, on your behalf, ask council.
I
Okay.
agree with that.
Is that all right
Is
with
that
you?
okay with
It's
you?
okay with you?
Okay.
So I make a motion to continue this hearing to our next date, which is August 13th. Is that
August 10th, I believe.
August 10th?
August 10th.
All right, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
So, I'm not town council, but just as a courtesy, just to let the neighbors know, there will be no, there won't be another notice.
No, there won't be a notice.
That's come back on the.
The 10th?
One notice?
No, they don't make them do it twice. They only make them do it once.
Yeah.
When is that?
I think it's
August 10th.
August
I
10th.
believe it's the next meeting.
August 10th at 7.
Next up is a sign one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Too.
I'm sorry, I appreciate this for you.
That's okay. It happens. I mean, I just thought,
Yeah.
I just thought because we were changing the building, it would fall under the 1A
I thought
category,
so
you
too
know?
until I started reading it, and then as I read more into it. maybe
Sure.
I'm
Got
wrong.
that.
That's okay, that's okay. We'll find out. We'll get educated.
Good catch. My mind's rolling.
I originally thought it was A12, and then I couldn't, it was like temporary FEMA housing or something.
Actually, you know, John, I have one already, because you gave one to the coffee.
I'd just like to announce that the petition for Timothy O'Connor, 278 Spruce Street, has been pulled.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the newspaper's fault.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So where are we next? Which one's the next one?
Trust expose, signs and graphics.
Thomas Trust.
Thomas Washington Trust.
Okay. On to our next petition.
The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 13, 2017, at 7:15 PM at Town Hall, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, on the petition of Thomas Washington Trust, Expose Signs and Graphics, Inc., P.O. Box 2049, Abington, 13 Airport Road, Hopedale, Mass., for a variance under 175-58.A, sign area, quantity, and height, multi-tenant building, requesting relief to provide a ground directory, building directory, and building tenant signs, 175-58F3. Illumination, proposed request seeks relief from internally illuminated signs. 175-58F6 prohibits roof signs. Request relief to seek a non-conforming pre-existing condition of a roof sign on 469, 477 Washington Street. The property is located on Assessor's Plan 16, Plot 178, 202, in the CBD zone.
Hi. how are you?
Good, good.
Hi, my name is Andy Clark. I'm from Expose Signs. I'm with Kirsten from Gentle Dental and Dr. Thomas from Abington Gentle, and is the owner of the property. We're seeking the relief from the sign bylaw, primarily the 175-58 and various subsections there. I would like to go through the various components of the, and I'd also like to thank especially Marshall and Marion, who we met with and helped us go through the various components here to get a cohesive. Dr. Thomas has spent some money, some serious money renovating the building. You all noticed that, and it's really a multi-parcel commercial building, but it's in the CBD zone, which is primarily a residential zoning thing. So we're proposing, as he's converted this building and renovated into a multi-tenant building, he's trying to provide adequate signage for the property, for the commercial businesses that would be leasing space in there. So the primary part is the entrance pylon sign. We'll see here, the existing sign, which only pertains to the small building over at 469, will be removed. The monument sign or pylon, ladder sign, however you want to define it, will be put in this space here. It's a joint parking lot between the two buildings, which has also been repaved, and parking has all been, the entrance has been redone as well. So this is the primary entrance into the property. So the current bylaw, I think this is subsection A, and subsection F3 for sign area, height, and internal illumination. So because it's a multi-tenant building, the hardship is that it's in a, and this building has existed for years, it's in a residential zone. So the allowance for the sign, there is really no allowance for a pylon sign or a graphic sign to exist in that property. So what they're proposing here is we're asking you to apply some of the commercial zoning to it, to this particular property. As you'll see, it has a 19-foot height. It has the address clearly marked, it is internally illuminated. And then it has illuminated panels provides about 7.5 square feet for the tenants, and 15 square feet for Abington Family Dental, and about 8 square feet for the address above there. Again, so the hardship is really, he's trying to market and utilize a commercial building in a residential district. It's an existing condition, the building wasn't built new. And also the hardship is this is a very busy intersection, right? So people coming down Washington Street can't see this building from the other side. I think it's approaching from the north. So we need to have a sign large enough so that people coming down the street can read it and make appropriate action to turn into this site here. These small, a tiny little sign we wouldn't have enough square footage for someone to be legible. So that is the relief here, and it's also internally illuminated. Again, that we follow the same bylaws that pertain to the other illumination signs in the area. 3 hours after the last business close, or 11 p.m., so there'd be no other light. There's illuminated signs all around in the area. Directly across the street is 7-Eleven, so there's other illumination going on. So there is no, additional, we're not causing any hardship with this application, and indeed, we're trying to create a safe environment for commercial business to operate. So that's component A, the entrance pylon sign. Component B is the building signs. Now, under the CBD guidelines, they're allowed 2 square feet, which is smaller than this sign right here for a commercial entity. Especially when you approach to Washington Street, many of the entrances to the tenants is considerably like several hundred feet back from the road. So we just have to provide adequate sign that people can read as they enter into the parking lot and say, okay, where do I park? Do I park the A, B, or C? Am I going to Abington Family Dental, or am I going to one of these other tenants here? So we proposed a 2x10 illuminated sign, mounts to the building, pretty standard stuff. Again, it allows for a legible area so that people can adequately identify the property, and it is providing, you know, some reasonable identity for the tenants for leasing. We're proposing, there's 3 on the Washington Street side, and then on the Baxter Street side, Abington Family Dental is requesting 1 on that side, and a directory so that the other tenants have some identity over here. When you approach Baxter Street, you cannot see what's on the other side of that property. So it just allows people to identify what's in that building so they can make appropriate preparations to turn at that intersection. Again, it is allowing for some safety and for people to identify what's actually happening in that property. The 469, we had that in here, Marshall, and I spoke about this. It's actually a pre-existing non-conforming condition because it was already an internally illuminated roof sign. So therefore, it is sort of grandfathered in. So that component has been removed from this application. And I just, you know, we're talking a little bit about hardship. You know, this is a business entity. It is in the downtown zone right there where there's a lot of activity and a lot of commercial. There's no residential area. There's no residential people, things around here. And I just want to identify some other, here we have them right here, some other business entities that have non-conforming, larger, illuminated process sign. So right here is the property that we're talking about here. 7-Eleven right across the street has 2 large wall signs, also has secondary signs that are also about 15 to 20 square feet for their tenants, which is the post office. Has a monument sign, and it also has a marketing sign that's applied to the post there. Bank of America, also down in here, has 2 large entry signs and 2 large building signs, and it's just a single occupancy building. Down here on 3, that's 3. So on 2, what is it, 2? Down over here, just across the street again. 2, they're not illuminated, but they have 2 large, 20+ square foot signs on the building just across the street from them on a multi-tenant building there. The Health Express, again, a large pylon sign, multi-tenants, a 40 square foot sign, and then several 15 square foot signs identifying the tenants. So we felt that the application kept into what is existing in your downtown, right in the very downtown district, right there, and wasn't going above and beyond, any kind of excessive request.
Is the old building staying there too? The smaller building?
The smaller
used to
building,
have-
yes, back over here, the
That's still
smaller
staying?
building is staying there. So it's become like, they have the 3 buildings over here, that's the 477.
Okay.
So the 1 building over here, that's 477 with 4 tenants, and then the 469, which is the single tenant building here. So it's a multi.
So you're moving into the building that's just kind of like an L shape.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever been in there, not only get your teeth beautifully white, but the building has been really well renovated, and they've started the renovations on the,
Right, I think there's a
Access
business
Street
back
side.
there too, they came in front of us,
you know,
Paul Barron's or something.
Grommets.
Yes.
so again, this pylon sign will go away. The roof sign stays there for whatever the tenant is on this building at 469, and that's a pre-existing. And then each tenant within the building gets
Okay.
gets a ground sign, gets a building sign to identify their primary entrance.
Again, it's a strange building, it kinda elves and,
Right.
It is, and so when you're coming down Washington Street and you make that turn, you know, again, you're looking at, you know, his building is 200 feet almost away from where that decision has to be made, so where am I going into? So again, they're not, if you're looking at something like this, you know, these guys are 15 feet away from where you're making that decision, and they have equally large signs. Again, same thing here, where this parking area is, you know, fairly close to the roadway, and they have large signs that are, you know, again, I'm not saying that they're not adequate and stuff like that, but they're existing scenarios, so.
And do you have any idea at this point who the tenants are, or who they anticipate they'll be, or?
Not in the smaller building, no, we do have one other person looking at the front part of the 477 right now.
Okay. I was just curious if tenants that anticipate sort of a drive-by, walk-up traffic, you know, oh, there's that building, or if it'd be more businesses where, you know, a sign might not be as needed for.
Well, the sign would be needed as far as the drawing in whatever tenant's gonna be in there,
Mhm.
as far as whether it's gonna be drive-by or walk-in. I'm sure there'll be some drive-by also, you know, whatever business is there. It's gonna be more, we'd like to try and keep it medical professional if we can,
Okay.
or, you know, insurance business, something of that nature.
any more?
No, that's my, any questions?
So I suppose the first question would be, why can't you just keep it within the restriction, but it's 2 square feet?
Yeah,
So
2
you're
square
saying
feet.
it's public safety.
This is almost 3 square feet, you know, so
Right,
imagine this 200 feet away, you know, it's, again, in our discussion with Marshall and Marion as well, you know, that's a residential and is a perfectly appropriate size for a residential building, somebody that has a law office in their house or something like that, where this building never was, you know, it's not like we're converting a residence or something into it. The existing 477 has been a commercial building for years, and so, he's just trying to create it as a viable multi-tenant building, you know.
right, and it's a public safety issue, right, so
Yeah.
we understand that.
We should mention too that we're gonna continue to see patients up till 8 o'clock, and so as you get into the winter time, not having an illuminated sign also makes it difficult to see the parking lot.
So you anticipated my second question,
Yes.
as well. Why illuminated? Because it says, you know, that is prohibited, but you think because of the dark, that's why you need it.
Plus, we start at 7 o'clock in the morning, a number of days, so you're really limited as far as if you don't have an illuminated sign during the fall and winter months.
And again, it's a safety issue.
Right.
As distinct from, say, if we said there was a law firm across the road, it doesn't have, I think, an illuminated sign, but
Right.
he's not, you know,
It's
we presume he's not open at 8 o'clock at night, he probably is. You know, he probably is working
These
hard.
external illuminations.
Yeah, but you are,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, you're expecting, you know, you have an expectation of safety for the tenant, for the customers coming to visit the property there. And again, we're just asking for, tried to come up with a product that gives them a reasonable legibility and visibility to make the appropriate decision. Because there is very tight, you know, you're coming right out of that intersection right here, and you're supposed to make that turn right into there. So there's a lot going on in that area.
And I think too, when you come up Thaxter, there's also, the building is, you know, is
It's pretty
kind
close
of
to
right
the
there, you
intersection.
can't
Yeah.
see anything over the top, and you don't know that there's businesses around the corner until you're already past the intersection, then you have to turn into the 7-Eleven, like cut across, and so.
Right.
And Marshall, just out of curiosity, any of those existing signs, you know if those are in the same district, like 7-Eleven, would that be the same?
I believe it's all CBD.
Also
Yeah, that-
BD?
Angela's, these, we haven't got to yet. I don't believe either of those 2 signs are permitted, to be honest with you.
Okay,
It's on my list, but I haven't got there yet.
In fact, I looked this up, so these are CBD
But
district.
it's all CBD. CBD is residential. There's discussion about changing that, putting that in residential. Commercial business district is residential, and you're allowed a 2 square foot sign by hanging your shingle out as an attorney or an accountant or something in your home. And so therefore, everything that has to be applied for here is a variance. It's not, number of signs has to go to planning, size of signs has to go to you guys, everything has to come to you, and this is very unique. The only thing I would ask here is, we weren't given the location of the pylon sign, ladder sign, whatever you wanna call it, and based on what I'm looking at, the dimensions there now, and the location, he has, could potentially, pulling out of that parking lot there,
Too low.
give us some
Safety concerns?
problems with being able to see, because it would appear, what is
obstruct your
usually asked
view.
for
Yeah.
is between 3 feet and 8 feet is open, and this is only 6.5 feet tall here, and then you're blocked off. If this is 19 feet, and this is 12.5 feet, this is 6.5 feet here, and I'd wanna see 8 feet
Right,
in here, so.
so they can
As
see
you
the
pull in
vehicles.
your car, you can look through and see up the street, through here to see if, but
How
Just-
far back is that from the roadway?
This
Looks
one is
pretty
15
close.
feet.
if,
15
if it's
feet.
more than a car length or so, then it's probably okay.
Because if you
I
pull
just
right
want,
out,
I just wanna make sure that we're okay with
Yeah.
that, you know, that we don't have a line of sight.
Yeah, that was the issue I was gonna bring up, that the height seems pretty low on it. And I know that street well,
But when you pull out of a lot, you know, you have to actually go down and look and see the intersection, and if it's a you know, I just don't wanna preclude that we can't say, hey, there's a problem here, because I don't want, even if it's gonna mean more business for your teeth, you know?
Yeah.
We don't have a problem.
But I mean, we could, if you allow, we could make this height, you know, subject to, you know.
Safety.
Marshal approval that this, you know, we could vary it and add the extra 2.5 feet or 1.5 feet that we would need to get the 8 foot clearance in
Yeah,
there.
it
You agree with
needs-
that?
It needs to be there so it can be seen.
right.
If we have to make some minor adjustments to,
So stipulations if, for safety
The
reasons.
final approval.
Wanna write that down?
yeah,
Mhm.
just so we don't have a problem.
Okay.
I'm not, he's not.
No, I see exactly what you're talking about, I was gonna bring it up myself, that,
Yep.
so how many signs again? Now, we have a building like this, we're gonna have signs on this side and on the residential by the brewery, you're gonna have signs there too?
right, there'll be one sign on the wall, and there'll be a small directory on the side.
Yeah, so, you have a couple building signs, 3 building signs on Washington Street, and then you have 2 building signs on Baxter Street. One is a directory, one is an Abington Family Dental.
Okay. All right. Okay, we go with questions?
I'm all set.
Come on, son.
You guys all set? Can we open it up to the floor? Anybody here? No? Yes, sir.
Sorry, my favorite thing, I'm actually in a butter, I'm Laura Scott Street, and I just wanna express my support for Dr. Thomas, and also the shame that they have to be here tonight, because I think it's actually a typo on our sign bylaw. As Marshall just said, the only place it says that the central business district should fall under residential sign bylaws is in the title of the section. It doesn't say it anywhere in the actual bylaw. So I think when we updated the sign bylaw last time,
Right.
someone added that to the caption, and now it means every business in the central business district can't have a business sign without coming to the zoning board. So that means all of downtown North Avenue and downtown Center Avenue. So obviously that was not ever intended,
Attention.
but that's the way it's printed, so that's why they're here.
Okay, yep.
So, and everything he's done, I mean, Dr. Thomas has, I can speak on behalf of the other property owners in Avenue Center, especially down his end. The work he's done to that building has been awesome.
I agree.
Really cleaned up the place. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, let's close it to the floor. You guys you wanna talk about it anymore, or make a motion?
No, sure. Will I make a motion?
Sure. So just for the record, the petitioners have withdrawn their request for relief under 175-58F6 that prohibits roof signs, because it was a pre-existing condition, pre-existing and non-conforming. So given that, I would make a motion to approve the variances under section 175-58A and 170, actually, before we do that, we should probably go on the record to establish.
What Marshall had said.
Yeah.
About,
Well, that would be the specific conditions, but just to go on the record to establish that variance is warranted under the circumstances, given, you know, the existing use of the building as well as the commercial district. They've established
grandfathered into.
yes, and
Yes.
they've established the sufficient
The
hardship
public safety.
as well as the public
Public
safety.
So during the day, between the two roads that are converging, three roads converging, and at night time, where you're opening until 8 at night, is that right?
Sorry,
Okay.
Nancy.
All right, so given that, I would make a motion to approve the variance under 175-58A. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to their actual petition. Did I lose it? Make a motion to approve the petition of Thomas Washington Trust, Expose Signs and Graphic Inc., P.O. Box 2049, Abington, 13/13 Airport Road, Hopedale, Mass. For a variance under 175-58A, sign area, quantity and height, multi-tenant building, requesting relief to provide ground directory, building directory, and tenant building signs, and under 175-58F3, illumination, proposed request seeks relief from internally illuminated signs. The variances we've conditioned on the sign, illuminated sign ceasing illumination 3 hours after the last business closes or otherwise no later than 11 p.m., as well as the sign, the multi-unit, the directory sign having final specifications subject to the approval of the building inspector concerning the height and clearance of the sign. Is that sufficient for your purposes, Marshall?
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as we put it in there, and then we've got sign size as, you know, signs, number, and size as presented.
Okay. Otherwise, signs, number, and size as presented.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marshall, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, I guess we'll be seeing each other.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if I have another application, good way.
Congratulations.
Oh,
thank
Should be a nice one.
Another application,
Different company, different property.
for a different town, right?
No, an easy one, an easy one.
Yeah?
Save it postage.
Yeah, just bring it down the office.
Do you want to take,
Do you want to take 5 minutes?
I just want to grab some more water.
Okay.
I would like to.
Okay.
We're gonna take a second to get some water.
Nice to meet you.
I want to ask you a question about that. Are you around the
There's John.
Take a break? Yeah.
When we talk with Bill, we need him. He's getting rained on, no doubt.
Oh, that letter
The shelter, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that, Quimby?
So have you been vacation yet?
Hi. I actually went across this place in Maine, which is very nice institution. Relaxed for a while. Now we're going down to Florida. My daughter's going to be in that collegiate program in Disney. She's going to work there for 6 months.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was going on.
She goes to Bridgewater State. It's a program at there.
Yes.
She's gonna work down there, we're going down there with our camper for the first time. See how that is. See how we leave. See how I'm leaving. I'm leaving here on 10th or 11th. I might not make the next meeting.
Yeah,
So
like when she steps in, I guess it's on the way.
we'll see.
Yeah.
We have to drive now.
Mm.
He's lucky he wasn't camping when I went up last Saturday, a couple of Saturday. Downpour. Yeah, tornado warnings in Maine. And then I drove through it when it came through. Between Braintree and Keys, it came through. It ripped everything out. It was amazing. Amazing. Who would have thought? Water spout, tornado.
Oh, yeah, up in like Bridgeton area?
Yeah, Bridgeton.
Yeah. We vacation there every summer.
Oh, it's
Where do you
beautiful.
go?
Well, we go to Longwood.
Oh, okay, right next door, yeah. Yeah.
My sister has a place up there.
Up on,
The Keys Lake, you know,
Oh,
Keys
Lovell.
Lake.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes up like this, and she's like right off here. Like we go down the road, and there's the lake.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I golfed at that Keys Lake golf course.
Yeah, that was pretty
Yeah.
good.
Decent place. Yeah, the Black Horse Tavern down in Bridgeton, if you ever get a go for a ride, it's a pretty good spot.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, we're just talking about Bridgeton, Maine here.
I got this on. Let me get the. That's the only mic, right?
Yes.
Okay, next petition.
All right. The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 13, 2017, at 7:20 p.m. at Town Hall, 500 Glenwood's Way, Abington, on the petition of Ollie's House, Inc., P.O. Box 66151, Auburndale, Mass., for a special permit under 175-21B7 to allow a former parish rectory residence to be used for a nonprofit women and children's safe haven. The property is located on Assessor's Plan 26, Plot 1, in the Highway Commercial Zone.
And before we start, I have a letter delivered July 13th, 2017. My name is Catherine Quimby. My family and I live in the Gables condominium complex in Abington. My neighbors and I received a letter in the mail that informing us about the Zoning Board of Appeal meeting scheduled for today, July 13th. While I am unable to be there in person, I want to express my concern about the possible creation of a women's and children's shelter at 127 North Adams Street. The Gables neighborhood is mostly families with young children. I myself have an 11-month-old son. Because of this, I'm concerned and I understand the need for the safe haven for the families who are in need. However, I cannot feel comfortable with the safe haven being created so close to my home. My building is only across the woods from the proposed safe haven location, and this honestly frightens me. The women and children who would be using the safe haven obviously need protection for a reason, and I worry that those people who the women are trying to get away from might fall into this location. The idea that people who may be violent, who may be abusive, who may be trying to find their spouse or partner to further hurt them could be so close to my home and my children scares me. I am terrified by the idea of such a danger could exist across in my backyard. Excuse me. I know that there is a need for safe haven, but I urge you and the zoning board to find a different location.
All set? Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, and I'm representing the Ollie's House, Inc., who is the applicant here. This property, as you know, is the Lively Stones Church, formerly the St. Nicholas Church. I actually appreciate Mrs. Quimby's letter and what she said, because it describes what this is not. And I'll try to get into detail, and I know there's a number of neighbors here. Just so the board is aware, this property abuts a few houses, a business, and also the Gable. So over 150 notices went out for this hearing. But that's under the statute, and that's why we're here. I want to first introduce Sandra Watson, who's sitting here in the middle with me. She is the founder and the president of Ollie's House. This is her baby. Yana Amato is here also. She's on the board of directors. Her husband Steve is also here. Pastor Darrell Young is sitting behind me. He is the owner of the property. Is Herb here yet?
Yes.
Oh, there's Herb, sorry, Herb. Herb Newell's on the board of directors. Where's Maria right behind? Sorry, I was talking to you earlier. Maria Butero. So some of the membership are here. This is a faith-based organization that provides, well, let me start with what it's not. This is not a battered women's shelter, an emergency shelter, someone who is fleeing from an abusive husband. I want to update some of the information I gave you on the application and basically also kind of educate the neighbors. We had a difficulty trying to figure out what classification of the zoning bylaw sections uses this came under, and I sat down with Marshall. And the closest we could come to was that this is classified under the rather old bylaw as a settlement house. And we didn't even know what a settlement house is. I've never seen a petition. But it's basically a community or a civic property that provides services to the community. And in this case, what we do is, this is not short-term housing, not transient housing. This is long-term housing for mothers with children under 6 years of age, 6 or under. It is intended to be a second level of housing, because more importantly, what they do in this building and as part of Ollie's Inc. is they provide job training skills, interview skills, money management skills, classroom, while they also provide they oversee the child care while mom and the children are all in the same building. If you're not aware of this building, this is a former rectory where the priests used to live. So it's already designed as a shared residential building. It is currently empty, but for the pastor himself and his wife and children live in a portion of the building. And I provided you with sample floor plans. I'd like to personally and publicly thank Mr. Jeff Rangel, who is an architect who lives in Abington. He's donating his services to help design the layout, and we'll be working with the town of Abington for all the permits. I personally am donating my legal services to help Ollie's get this thing underway, and I know a lot of the contractors from the church and all are also donating their services to help with the renovation work. So this would provide up to 7 rooms for a mother and child to reside. We anticipate that those residents would be staying there for over a year each, some up to 2 years. It's a rather intensive and controlled facility where they are required to basically pitch in and share and also to do the job training. And then they have to basically manage their money, their paychecks. Some of these women are for the first time are out on their own for whatever their situation is. And Sandra and her staff are there to help them get on their own feet and eventually move on and become independent livers. There is not a situation where there is a threat of violence here. Those issues would not be brought into this type of scenario. All of the residents would be tested for drugs. They have to be drug-free. There is a background check on them. And with only 7, obviously Sandra and her group can be very selective. There are other places like this in the general southeastern Massachusetts area, but this one would kind of fit in this area. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the residents are going to come from Abington and Brockton. It might be from points beyond, but it will try to help those residents find jobs in the immediate area because they're going to be shown how to either use the bus lines, get a ride to work. Sometimes volunteers will help them get to work and get home from work. And just, again, basically learn how to manage money and be responsible parts of the community. So I just want to reiterate again for the board and for the neighbors, this is not a battered women's shelter where people are being brought in at 11 o'clock at night under police escort. It doesn't happen, but it is something that is great that they're doing. I know I gave you some information about it. There's a lot of information online about Ollie's House. She has degrees in doing this type of this work, the social work, and she's very excited to get this done. This requires a special permit under our zoning bylaw, and under the special permit, we need to demonstrate to you that this use would not overload any of the water or sewer services. which of course it won't. This building was already designed for multi-uses. As the floor plans show, there already are multiple bathrooms in the building because there were multiple priests living in there, so we're going to upgrade all of them. A lot of the building has not been used in several years. There's also in the basement, there is some meeting and office areas so that they can have one-on-one discussions and counseling. There's also an area for the kids to play together while mom is perhaps on the computer learning some of her internet skills, or whatever the training might be at that time. There is not going to be any sort of exterior renovations, I should say. It's all interior-based renovations, but for maybe some new windows. There are no signs on the building. We're not kind of advertising where we are. It's a private function, and I think it'll be a very successful function and a benefit to the community. There will always be staff on site 24 hours a day. There's, as you can see in the floor plans, there's on-site sleeping quarters for the staff, and there's offices for the staff there. And of course, the pastor lives there himself, and will continue to run his church in the actual church building, which is next door, or on the same property, but next to it. I'll shut up because I've talked a lot already tonight, and maybe invite some questions from the board, maybe from the neighbors. But that is the intent of all these houses, and what it's not, but more importantly, what it is. And I hope the town and the board will support this special permit so they can begin their renovations.
I think my only, sort of, not concern, but my only question when I was reviewing the petition was, or the application, was the section that this would fall under, and I didn't see where settlement house was defined, so I was unsure if this would be in some type of residential use, or whether or not, I mean,
That's the closest thing in our bylaw that Councilor Riley and I could come.
We had to go to the dictionary.
Settlement.
We
Yeah,
had to
right.
go look it up, and we looked up several different things, and that was most applicable, in my opinion.
I guess my question would be, would it be a situation where there would be multiple permits that were required, a special permit for the sort of nonprofit use, but also, you know, whatever the case may be, an additional special permit or a variance for whatever residential purposes it would also serve?
In the settlement house, I believe it encompassed much of all of these uses. It kind of puts them all together. It will be more confusing for me and whomever the architect that's selected, whether it's Wrangle or whomever, in terms of discerning the use. We have a rectory, which was probably, we've got 3 buildings here. We've got the church, which was probably an assembly use. We have the rectory, which was a residential, and then we've got utility with the 4-bay garage and whatnot. What they're gonna turn what into something, probably the church is going to change occupancies. But that's not something that you are going to have to deal with. It's something that I am going to have to deal with in making determinations with probably requesting a narrative from the architect to make sure I'm covered and the town's covered with regards to your type of question. But in terms of in zoning here, what we looked at here was this settlement was more encompassing because it seems to best include all of what their intended purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, just by looking through here, very difficult to label it.
Yeah.
We had to go to the dictionary, look it up, and then, you know, I mean, I was like, what
We
is-
Googled it. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have to, yeah.
Well, you don't want to admit that.
Well,
You just did.
I don't know. Well, I suppose I would look at under 175-21B7, the other words, which are private, non-profit, community centre buildings or similar facility, because that seems what it is.
Right.
I see the special permit, of course, is a lower threshold than the variances we've been dealing with tonight. But it does ask, in the bylaw it says, let me see, it would not be allowed generally or without restriction throughout the zoning district but which, if controlled as to the number, area, location, relation to neighbourhood, and other characteristics, would not be injurious to the public health, the safety, the welfare, the morals, order, the comfort, convenience, appearance, general welfare of the community. So with that in mind, and I'm sure people here are going to ask, who would be your client? Who would be staying here?
Who would be our client? So we have kind of a very intensive application process in which we are background checking, drug testing, kind of everyone. So our client they're women that are struggling and that they need support, life skills classes, educational support, different things like that. And they're kind of at a place where they're ready for those changes. So they're not coming from, this is not a drug rehab, this is not a safe haven, like Sean was saying before, it's not a short-term shelter. This is kind of a long-term program to really teach them the skills. That way that when they get out of Ollie's house, they'll be ready and able to use those skills on a long-term basis. So it's
where would they come from? Would they come from TSS?
None of them are battered women,
So-
drug users, or anything.
Well, so that's a very good question, so let me answer that for you. So, clearly with this population, there's abuse is very common. So the way that we have the program set up is the location will be confidential. We don't even want to share the town, so we do ask that you please keep the location confidential. For that reason, because we don't know, you're absolutely right, we don't know exactly, we're going to try to get a very detailed history, we're going to do mental health history, physical history, they're going to have referrals, drug history.
And do you have women in your town?
I do actually.
You do?
I do.
Could we, just one thing,
Yeah, before
excuse
we-
me?
Very similar.
We're not taking questions from the
Oh.
audience right now, so if we just
Yeah,
hold
sure.
off of that, you can just
Okay.
continue with the question.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
I was
Yes,
going to
sorry.
ask, where do you get your clients from? Do you get them from TSS or?
No. So we will be getting them from WIC offices or pregnancy resource centers, another one as well. So there are programs that take in pregnant women. And so our program is very unique in that the goal is to teach them these skills to get them on their feet. So we don't want to just take them in to provide shelter. If they're gonna be in a program like this, they have to be kind of ready for change, motivated, ready to work. So the nice thing too is if we do take them from other shelters that are more short-term, they've already kind of been screened in that process. And because we are private, we're not government funded, we can be very, very, like Sean said, very selective in who we take. And it's a community house, so it's dorm style. So we can't have women who are dangerous. I mean, that's the reality of it. And so I'm a therapist by training. So we can't have women with major mental health disorders because there's children there. So it needs to be a very safe and structured environment. And the way that we kind of have laid out our system, it's a level system. So the first 30 days is a trial period. Can you be safe? Can you live in a home with other people? Can you follow the rules? So that first 30 days really shows if they can live in an environment like this. They will all be told that the location is confidential. Nobody is allowed to come, and they're not allowed to share the address. If within those 30 days we find out that something like that has happened, they will be dismissed immediately because we have to keep the location safe. So we are because we're privately owned, we are very, very structured, very strict, with a very, very intensive intake process as well. So the other thing, I mean, kind of, I'm over, I share a lot, but I want you to be very informed about what's going on and comfortable as well. So the other piece to it as well is that our first interview with these women and families is actually not going to be at the building because as you get an application, you're not quite sure what the family's like, if it's an abusive situation. We don't want to advertise, so we're going to meet them at a very different location. That way we can figure out what that history is and kind of weed that out because it needs to be a safe haven, one for the neighborhood, for the neighbors there. for the children. I have 2 young kids of my own, and I totally, totally understand that their safety has to come first. Your children have to come first. It's nice that it's in a church location. There's already families that come to the church. There's already people that are in and out. It's a very, very large lot. There's, the woods in between as well, so there's definitely a good distance. And it's 6 or 7 families, so we're not housing 20, 30, we're not an emergency shelter where we just have tons of people coming in and out on a daily basis. It's very structured. We will have overnight staff there 24/7. It'll be very, very, very contained and structured.
Is there security at all?
So we will have a security system, yes.
Is there a security guard or a
Just
security?
overnight staff,
We-
there's always someone.
So we will, I, not a security guard, I would like to, depending on funds, I would like to also get a security lock on the door, as well, but we will have staff there 24/7. And they will have curfew, it will be a very structured, system.
And is the actual program itself, is it licensed by any sort of authority, like the Board of Health or
Funding and all?
Department of Public Health
So
or
we
anything
have-
like that, or?
So we, because we're private, I don't know exactly know how to answer that. Because we're privately funded, there's less things that we have to do, but yes, we will need to go through those processes. And the other thing, this is kind of one of our first steps, somewhat, is figuring out how many we are, how many families are able to live there. And then we kind of move on with a little more with the permits and the details. I don't know.
The application requests up to 7. The actual, and they would all reside on the top floor where the priests lived. Right now, the floor plan, which is a work in progress, shows 6 with an office. That office may be changed later into a 7th if it works better that way. But right now, we wanted to have more kind of meeting and training space and kind of see how it all works out in time. But the building is perfectly suited for it.
Right.
And in addition to making sure that they have to live with each other in a nice, quiet and peaceful place, they have to live with the pastor. He will continue to reside in the building
there.
with his family, so he will also be on premise.
More eyes and ears.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
No.
I'm just trying to get a picture of this because I'm trying to see where it is in mine. Okay. No more questions?
No.
All right, let's open it up to the floor. Now, one at a time, okay? Just one at a time. Please stand and name, address. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Harry Jones. I live at 101 North Quincy Street, direct abutter to the church. I've been there for 53 years. Obviously, over the years, I've seen a lot of changes up there. Most of them not for the good. If you want an example, I can. Anyways, 7 families, including Young, Reverend Young. I'd like to know the church, if you drive by there now, let me ask you this, how did you pick that site?
It was offered to us.
Who offered it? Lively Stone, there's 2 signs out there right now.
Mm.
Lively Stones Christian Center or the Promised Land Family Church? Which one?
So, Lively Stones actually owns, the property, and Promised Land is actually renting, some space there as well.
That's probably the 3rd or 4th organization that's rented from there in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I think he's, for the board's mind, he's alluding to people who share the church
Share the church.
with Lively Stones' church, right?
Also,
They have services in the
as
church.
we all know, you may not, a month ago, they were filming a movie in Brockton. Oh, well, and good, big major movie. 1 o'clock in the morning, I hear all this turmoil going on. Trailer trucks are moving into the church to film some of the movie. I listened to this for 3 nights. Now, I was here 17 years ago, working with your father, Sean, when they were building the gables. At least Mr. Bishop had the common courtesy, and your father, to go to the neighbors and ask them their opinion. Like I say, 53 years. Not that I'm special, I've never been asked the opinion of anything. I've seen things go on over there. Now, I have nothing against you bringing in women and children. nothing. But I'm not one to dig into other people's business. The stuff that goes on in that church parking lot in the middle of the night, in most cases could make your skin crawl. During the day, now you're bringing in children. You've got the church, you've got the rectory. Comcast trucks drive through there all day. Infinity trucks drive through there all day. Trailer trucks with cars on the back of them parking in parking lot all day. If this is approved, you better really put some purity on the rectory. Number two, okay? Say this works out all well and good, you're getting all kinds of donations. Now, what do you have to do to expand into the church?
We'd have to get another.
Both the same address, 127 North Quincy Street.
We'd have to get, that is not in the plans, but I'll take your hypothetical. We'd have to come back to the board and come back to the planning board for more permits.
Because it's a special permit, correct?
Yeah,
This is a special
we're asking
permit.
for
This can't
no
be
more,
pulled.
no more than 7.
No more than 7, okay? That's including Reverend Jensen.
If we.
No,
yeah.
it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not including
So
it.
it's 7 plus.
Yes, in a 3-story building,
Yeah.
right?
Can I add to that?
Sure.
If we want to expand and things go well with donations, I would like to open it in different towns and areas because the need for women and children is very high. So I don't plan on expanding into the church at all, me personally. So,
Okay.
you know.
Another question. You go on to Facebook, Lively Stones. Facebook, call up the phone number. That phone number has been in existence for 3-4 years. Call up the operator. Operator, the number, they give you the number, you call up the church. We're not accepting phone calls at this time. It's been like that for God only knows how long. Email, you email them, I'm still waiting back for a response. I don't know if you know what you may or may not getting yourself into. And the only reason I called them, I don't go there. I was watching vermin go through a broken door into the church. I was just trying to warn them. Can't get through to them, not my business, eat the church.
If I can try to, I've known the Joneses, thanks. Some of the issues you just described, you may see a benefit to that. Now we're gonna have people using the building. As you know, for a number of years, the rectory has been vacant essentially, except for the pastor. It just, the property has been frankly underused. When St. Nicholas Church was there, it was heavily used. And a lot of things have changed over time, including the construction of the gables.
Sure.
The,
Which turned out, now this town fought the Gables, you know that. I come to every meeting. That's probably the only decent thing that ever went on in North Quincy Street. If you can remember, and I won't get into names, they tried to annex that part of Abington to Brockton. Brockton didn't want it. Now, again, not to interrupt you, but seeing we're talking about it, who's gonna oversee this? You get the permit, you move in, who's gonna oversee to make sure that this is all up to code and stays up to code?
the building inspector, the fire department, Board of Health, all have to go through the building. Board of Health can come through, actually any of them can come through at any time, really.
Okay.
So, trust me, if you have an issue with your operation, you'll know how to get in touch with Sandra or her people.
Right.
2 more questions, then somebody else can have them too. Like I say, I am directly above, right side of the church. There was a swimming pool in 35 years ago. Very cognizant, we all have children. Needed a 3-foot, 4-foot fence. I put a 6-foot fence in. My entire property got a 6-foot fence, right? What are you gonna do to protect the children if they get out of that house? Because like you said, there's a lot of woods up there.
So this is kind of a big piece of why we have on-call staff, and staff living in the, so a big part of our program is parenting. So I'm a marriage and family therapist, so attachment is huge. So I am required to report neglect or abuse. So if we have a situation like that within the home, one, it is our job to teach these women how to general safety, we're gonna have safety classes, health, all of those things. And if there's a situation where a woman is not watching her child, we will have staff that are there for the classes during the day, and then we'll have overnight staff as well, doing check-ins, room checks, bathroom checks, cleaning checks, random drug checks, kind of the whole 9 yards. So there will always be eyes really there, including the safety of the children.
So
Yeah,
if you
sure.
get the variance, you move in, say things don't work out, 2 years down the road.
Sure.
And the officer go look for another tenant. Do they have to bring it in front of the board again? Or now that you got the variance?
It's not a variance, sir, it's a special permit.
Or a special permit?
Right, special permit will go away.
That goes
If they
away?
move out, it goes away.
Okay, fine. Last thing, the only reason I asked you,
Yeah, of course.
who would oversee all of this, is I'll walk up the street, church, and we come to the Richie's Dunkin' Donuts Plaza, which you did a wonderful job with. Now we come to the pawn shop. Where you're in your head, we come to the pawn shop.
Where's that? I don't know.
My understanding, and I could be wrong, that originally they had a permit for 5 automobiles, then they went to 12. But any given day, I count 18 to 22. Obviously, somebody's not, and I'm not casting stones, somebody's not doing their job. Now, behind Borderland is poor Billy, who's never gonna come back again's diesel junkyard. That chances are very, very good that there's diesel fuel and carcinogens leaking into the ground, that one day the town of Abington's gonna end up to pay to clean it up. Then we'll move one more. We got the guy with the 5 sheep up at the pole line, with the biggest junkyard on the South Shore, and you can't deny it. Now, you drive through there, which I have, right? Now, okay, I'm at the end of my career, but I can picture what's gonna happen in 10 years, 15 years, because there are boats up there are trucks up there, there's everything that's falling apart. And what are they doing? They're leaking oil, they're leaking diesel fuel, they're leaking everything known to me into the ground. Obviously, again, somebody's not doing their job. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Next. Sir?
Walter Green, 202 Rembrandt Road. I live in the Gables, right behind where she wants to be. And I'm totally against it, I'm sorry. Sometimes I have to leave at night, and I'm not leaving my wife, and there's kids all over the place. And I just don't think that it's a good idea. It's a good idea to help people, don't get me wrong there, but not there.
Okay, thank you.
Can I comment just quick? Oh, go ahead, you wanna go through?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jackie, I'm his wife. 202
right.
Rembrandt. What I'd like to ask you is, how many other places do you have?
This is our first one.
So you have never had,
women over there.
One at a time, please.
Oh, of my own? I thought you meant of a similar shelter. It's not my own, but there is one.
so how many have you actually been?
So I haven't, this is a startup, and this is my first. I have worked at shelters like this before. Like I said, I'm a therapist. I've worked with this population,
Right.
for a while.
Okay, you mentioned that there was a 30-day trial period. You have a child and you have a parent. By law, you're not supposed to put a child out.
So
So how are we going to get rid of the child or the mother who is a drug addict?
right. So if something like that were to happen, this is where the government kind of comes in.
Well, I don't think we should rely on the government.
Or an
I
emergency
think it's a
shelter.
problem for all the other children around our neighborhood. We have enough in the Gables. We have a lot, we have everything, the noise from the church I listen to Dunkin' Donuts, and all the kids swearing and all that. It's not a good environment for your younger ones. And believe me, we have called the police many, many times. We don't get anywhere. So we do not want anyone else involved in our area.
So you're saying
So
the police
it's
are
right there.
Okay.
Totally against anybody else coming in here. You know exactly what it's like. You hear it as much as I hear it, and the rest of us do too.
There were points over there, you probably heard the same music 2-3 years ago. It was so bad in the middle of the summer. I had to shut every window in my house, could not sit on the deck. As a gentleman, all they had to do was close the side door. This church is echo. I went over there as a gentleman and talked to the people, and they looked at me like I was a moron.
We don't have any use or jurisdiction over the church building itself. Sandra and her people are only in.
I'm not complaining totally about the church.
I understand.
I have gone to car washes there. They have some very lovely children that work there and help out.
Right.
But I'm talking about the other things will be happy.
Understood. Now, this, I think we've described and perhaps we haven't convinced you yet, but hopefully the board will keep in mind that what we're proposing to use is a rather quiet use. It is a residential use. It is an indoor training, and there'll be a lot of times when we're, again, trying to get moms at work while the staff watches the children on property. So, it'll be just like people at the Gables leave for work in the morning and come back in the day, at the end of the day, or they're gonna be in-house training for things on, like I said, on the internet, or they'll come in with people training them interview skills, or how to manage money, savings accounts and all. I mean, this is a positive thing for this class of people. It is, again, everyone is drug tested, so there's no issues with drugs. If they're not allowed into the program if they fail the drug test. There's a background check. So, I mean, frankly, we get to check our neighbors, and most of us don't get to check our neighbors. So it's who you live with. I mean, the Gables is a large complex. There's some good people and bad people. We have a little bit more control, or Sandra will have a little bit more control over that. And it's designed, every woman who may want to be in there is looking to be there to live in a quiet, safe place for their child. No one's going to want to move in there if it's not working that way. And because it's only 7, we can be incredibly selective. There's probably a much greater need, as Sandra said, but we don't have the funding to open up a larger place or more places. If this comes and is successful, and I trust it will be, maybe Ollie's House does get other donors, but it wouldn't be an expansion here, it would be multiple locations. You want to say something, I think?
I do. Well, going off of that, I think the pro here is that, and you're welcome to look at the plans and we can talk later, but it's dorm style. So they share common living areas, the kitchen, so it's very community house. So they're not in their own apartments doing whatever they're doing. So it's not like they can lie at the application process, slide through, get through their 30 days, and then it's not a drug house in their apartment. It's not like that at all. So I think this is definitely a big pro in that because they're in an open living space, we'll doing room checks, random room checks, random drug tests, making sure that if there's random people visiting the house that they haven't gotten approved, that's a big problem. So there's a lot of structure in place, and and because there are children, like you said, these families have to be safe families.
And just to give you a little bit more information about what goes on, there's one kitchen that serves these residents. So the residents are also going to be taught how to cook and prepare meals. The kids will be taught how to, good nutrition skills and all that. So they're not actually separate apartments at all, right? It's basically bedrooms